So in this review, all of these problems are very similar. I really would recommend that you try them all first before you watch this video. Otherwise, it's not going to help you prepare quite as well. So try them and then just watch the video and check your answers as you go. The easiest thing to do when they're in the most basic form is just to split my middle number apart. So if I divide by 2, that is -9 times -9. That's going to give me my final answer, which is 81. And then remember, where you split it apart, that's the number you use inside the parentheses. So that's going to be x minus 9 squared, which means the correct answer here should be A. If I do question 2, very similar. So on question 2 here, split 20 apart is 10 and 10. So that gives me, here they're using the variable p, so p plus 10. Don't forget the squared. And then to find my final number, I just do 10 times 10, which is 100. Okay, question 3. Now 3 is a little bit different because there's a number in the very front. So anytime there's a number in the front, you have to remember to do GCF first. So my GCF is 3, which means the problem I'm going to really be doing is x squared minus 8x plus blank. I got the 8 because I did -24 divided by 3. So now if I work this problem out, that's going to be x minus 4, because I split this to be -4 and -4 squared. And then -4 times -4 is positive 16. And then to get my final blank spot up here, so there's 2 other things we have to do. We need to bring our GCF down in front of our parentheses, so that gives me this value. And then I have to actually multiply 16 times that 3 to get my final answer. So 16 times 3 is going to give me 48 for my final blank answer. Question 4. Again, there's a number in the front, so I have to do GCF. So GCF is 4. When I divide that, that gives me x squared minus 10x plus blank. If I split 10 apart, that's -5 and -5, so x minus 5 squared. Remember, the 4 is going to come down. -5 times -5 is positive 25. And then 25 times 4, that gives me this blank up here at the top, is going to be 100. Don't forget to multiply by the GCF and to bring it down. My guess is if you forget to do anything, it's going to be to bring this 4 down and then to actually multiply to get that final answer at the top. All right, question 5, GCF again. Divide the GCF out, which is 2. So I've got a squared minus 12a plus blank. 12 splits in half, -6, -6. A squared, a minus 6 squared. -6 times -6 is 36. And now I've got to use my GCF in 2 places. Remember, the GCF has to come down here as part of this answer. And also I have to multiply it times the 36 to get my last number, which is going to be 72. Last example. This one might trick you a little bit, so just be really careful. If I split this apart, I get -1 and -1. So that's going to be x minus 1 squared. And then the silly thing that people do is that when they multiply this back out, they don't multiply it correctly. -1 times -1 is positive 1. So just be careful about that. Okay, this whole back side of our review is where they give us a number that we think is probably going to be wrong. So remember, for a minute, we're going to ignore it. So if I'm looking at just the beginning of this equation, then I notice that it starts with a number, so I'm going to have to take that out. So my GCF is 2, which leaves me x squared minus 2x plus blank. Well, we can kind of cheat because we just did this problem, but just in case, we can split -2 apart, -1 and -1. So that gives me x minus 1 squared, and -1 times -1 is positive 1. And then remember, we need to also consider this GCF, so I'm going to bring my GCF down here to be a 2. And then also I need to multiply this number by 2, which is going to give me 2. So it's 2, but really they said the number was 9. So I have to think to myself, how can I fix this 2 so that I can turn it into a 9? So that's going to be 2 plus 7. So the last part of my equation is going to be plus 7. Remember, I did that because 2 plus 7 is what gave me 9, my original answer. So it looks like the correct answer here is going to be C. Okay, so let's look at question 8. Again, we think this last number is probably wrong. So let's rewrite our equation. It's going to be y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus blank, right? We're going to kind of ignore the last part. Now, I do have a GCF, which is 3. These are the harder types of problems. This is the hardest they ever get. So I'm going to divide the 3 out. X squared minus 6, minus 2x plus blank. Man, we're just getting the same problem over and over again. All right, -1. So that's x minus 1 squared. Remember, my GCF has to be used in a few different places. First, it's going to come down in front of my parentheses. And then also, it's got to multiply by this last number, which I haven't written yet. That last number there is going to be 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. So I'm going to write that up here. Now remember, I need this to be -3. So that might get a little bit tricky. How can you turn positive 3 into -3? And you can do that by subtracting 6. 3 minus 6 equals -3. All right, which means that -6 is going to come down to be part of my final answer here. Okay, question 9. I am really sorry that we're doing the same thing over and over again. You'll see what I mean in a minute. We think this is wrong, so we're going to ignore it for a minute. X squared minus 2x plus blank. Break the 2 apart. -2, no, -1, -1. So x minus 1 squared. There was no GCF. -1 times -1 is +1. And then to fix this and turn it into a +4, I'm going to add 3. So plus 3 gives me my final answer. Y equals x plus 1 squared, or sorry, x minus 1 squared plus 3. Question 10. Here we go. We're getting different numbers now. It's a good thing. So no GCF. We think this number might be wrong, so we're going to do x squared minus 16x plus blank. Break my -16 apart, -8 and -8, which is going to give me 64. X minus 8 squared in parentheses. And now this time 64 is the right number. So that number is not incorrect in the beginning. So the only thing we can do is plus 0, which means my final equation is y equals x minus 8 squared plus 0. All right, questions 11 and 12 both have GCF, so we're kind of back to slightly more complicated. We think 41 is wrong, so we're going to think about that for a minute. So I'm going to rewrite my question, 2x squared minus 16x plus blank. So let's just work this out normal. Take our GCF out, which is 2. That gives me x squared minus 8x plus blank. Split 8 apart, -4 and -4, so that's x squared, x minus 4 squared. -4 times -4 is 16. I'm going to use the GCF in 2 places, one in the front. Wants to multiply this last number, which gives me 32. And then I need to fix that last number so that it equals 41. And to do that, I'm going to have to add, looks like 9. 32 plus 9 gets me to 41. So the plus 9 is going to come to be part of my final answer. So y equals 2, parentheses, x minus 4 squared plus 9. All right, question 12, very similar. All right, we got to keep this number on reserve over here. I think we actually did a problem very similar to this in class today. So first we'll just rewrite our problem, 4x squared plus 80x plus blank. All right, we got a GCF here of 4. So that leaves me with x squared plus 20x plus blank. If I split 20 apart, I get 10 and 10, which gives me 10 times 10 is 100. And then I'm going to have, let's see, x plus 10 squared. I know I've got to use my GCF in 2 places, once in the front, once at the end, which is going to give me 400. And then I have to fix my number, 400. I need to turn it into 403, so that means I have to add 3. So I'm going to do plus 3. So my equation is y equals 4, parentheses x plus 10 squared, plus 3. If you have any questions on any of those, you need to come to tutoring tomorrow morning. Good luck.